true leadership to me is that you're embracing both, that you have the ability to be a leader who has empathy for your team and the people who are actually building the business. You care about those people, you care about the customers, and you're bringing that human side into how you operate. But then you're also holding people accountable, including yourself, and you are raising the bar for how you're building the business and building a product. And so you're able to do both. You're not trading one or the other. So that is where kind of the kindness and the toughness comes in. And a true leader to me is able to do both.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Jessy James, and today's guest is Diana Langston. Diana Langston is founder and executive coach of Kind But Tough. Known for building high-growth SaaS organizations with a kind but tough leadership philosophy, she's also a product executive with over 20 plus years of experience. She has scaled teams and platforms at Amazon, Bots, Iterable, driving growth from 42 million to 225 million plus ARR, and launching industry-first AI products, including an industry-first generative AI journey builder. Diana combines operational rigor with deep empathy, delivering 100% team retention and engagement scores well above benchmarks. A Gallup-certified Clifton Strengths and UC Berkeley certified executive coach, she helps leaders integrate accountability and psychological safety to win in an AI-forward world. Diana, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
Hi, Jessy. Thanks so much. I'm super excited to be here.
Me too. Diana, I'm curious, who is someone from your early life, in your early career, that has shaped the leader that you are today? It could be a person or it could be an experience.
Yeah, so if I think about my early years, the person that really just like pops into my mind instantly is one of my professors at Diana College, and her name was Jerry Parker. And I don't even know if she realizes quite the impact that she had on my life. She's retired now, but she headed up Native American Studies and Intercultural Studies at Diana College. And she just took me under her wing. And like through that whole experience, I just saw she was kind, but also really tough, and like how she led the classroom and just like her whole aura, like she was just a presence. But she had so much empathy for her students and really wanted to help them be critical thinkers and open up the way they thought about the world and different people and cultures. And she just opened up a whole different world to me and even introduced me to what is cultural anthropology. And I ended up majoring in that. And that has just completely shifted just how I think about things. And when I ended up majoring in cultural anthropology, there was a different professor who was doing a whole study on Silicon Valley workplace culture at San Jose State. And then that really led me into interviewing people all around Silicon Valley and the jobs they do and observing them in their work. And then that helped shape like me getting into tech and then how I observe people using the products that I've been building. So like her influence on me and just taking me under her wing as like a fledgling college student just opened up my mind in so many different ways. And I feel like that is a level of leadership.
Fantastic. What does true leadership mean to you? What from your perspective makes a true leader?
Yeah, so true leadership to me isn't, it's not a choice about, you know, empathy or accountability. So true leadership to me is that you're embracing both, that you have the ability to be a leader who has empathy for your team and the people who are actually building the business. Like you care about those people, you care about the customers, and you're bringing that human side into how you operate. But then you're also holding people accountable, including yourself, and you are raising the bar for how you're building the business and building a product, whatever it is that you do within your department. And so you're able to do both. You're not trading one or the other. So that is where kind of the kindness and the toughness comes in. And a true leader to me is able to do both. And you're not just being one or the other, or you're not leading by a fear and intimidation. I don't believe in that. I believe in leading by kindness and caring for people, building trust, which ultimately gets everybody to care deeper about the business and the team. And then that trust builds the toughness and it builds bravery. And then I think people are bolder and they do things and they push the business to a new level. So
Yeah.
that's what it means to
No, that's great. And I'm curious, what difference does that make? I mean, why does it matter?
Why does it matter? Well, because I've seen people who I've been in tech for a long time and I've seen a lot of different types of environments and leadership styles. And so I've learned a lot, but through observation on also what to do and what not to do. And I've been in rooms where people lead by fear and intimidation, period.
Mm.
And when you lead by fear and intimidation, you get compliance. You get people who, say yes and they do what somebody wants them to do, but they're afraid to push back, right? And I think that afraid to push back then creates a barrier to being more bold and more brave in your ideas and how you think and what you're bringing. And so that's where you don't get the best out of people by leading with fear and intimidation. I feel like you get the best out of people by caring about them, being empathetic to who they are, what their desires are, what their strengths are, what do they bring to the business, and tapping into that. And that helps them be more bold, more brave, and push boundaries in a new way. And so that's where I see the difference.
Can you share about a time when you realized that your way of leading and living no longer met the demands of your work and life and growth was needed?
Well, I feel like growth is always needed. So I'm one of those people who's like a forever learner. Like I totally embrace this whole growth mindset type of thing. Like if you talk to anybody who knows me, it's like, oh, I can't believe Diana's taking another class. Like I have never stopped learning. Like that is just something where I just feel like it's so important. Like I had to keep learning and taking classes to evolve because technology is always shifting when you're in product. And so you keep having to, up level those skills. But then as I've grown as a leader, what's been really important to me is my own self-awareness. And so that is where I really needed to zero in on where am I growing? I can't grow if I'm not self-reflecting. And so I have to look inward and I have to be able to face things that maybe I'm not proud of or I haven't done right or I need to evolve in a different way. And so that's been a lot of my journey, I'd say, over the last 5 years is how am I being more self-reflective and how then am I tapping into growth in a different way, like through that self-reflection. And so, yeah, hopefully that answered your question. And
Yeah, and as you kind of talk about becoming more aware and
yeah,
continuously growing, What did you have to outgrow or let go?
Yeah. So I think what's happened and what I've had to realize is a lot in communication style, right? Like it's really important on how you communicate with people. And so part of this journey and this self-reflection is me going through like UC Berkeley's Executive Coaching Institute and Gallup Clifton Strengths. And that is all about like being human with the human and what are your strengths? How are you tapping into those to grow? And also then what are your blind spots? So as I've worked with coaches and then learned my own kind of me as a leader, I want to be a better coach to others, whether it's my team or I'm coaching people outside of my team. I've had to tap into really understanding how is it that I communicate and where do I need to get better about communication. And one of the things that I learned along the way and that I had to like figure out was one of my strengths is being strategic. And with that comes a blind spot where you can often see patterns and you think ahead and you get to answer very quickly. But with that, there comes a blind spot where maybe you didn't take people along the journey on how you got to that conclusion. And so I've had to learn, and it's been interesting because, leaders around me have told like, oh, it's all in the narrative and how you tell the story. And then as I went into my own deeper work on, how does my brain work and how do I operate? Where are my strengths? And, knowing how I operate now and hearing and then reflecting on all the feedback I've gotten over the years, then I was able to realize, I have to let go of just this is how I got to this kind of conclusion and assuming people understand how I got there. But more other people have different ways of thinking and how am I bringing them on the journey of how I got to that answer, how I got to this conclusion, and why does it matter? So really around the storytelling as a leader, and how you bring people along the journey. That's something I've had to adjust a lot as I've grown.
Thinking about your journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself for your own growth?
Yeah, so I think the most valuable investment for me, it started some years ago when I really wanted to branch out of being like an IC principal level product manager and get more and more into leadership. And I was like, where can I take some like leadership courses? Because you don't really necessarily, work doesn't necessarily give them to you. You've got to like go and, if you want to own your career and you want to grow and you want to push the boundaries, sometimes you've got to go self-educate and put yourself out there. And I found this women's leadership course through UC Berkeley. And so they have like an extension of Haas School of Business where they have like an executive education kind of extension program. And they have this whole like women's leadership kind of certification process where you go for a week and you're just immersed with all these other women leaders. And I went to that. And gosh, it was so awesome. I mean, I loved it so much that they're like, well, you can continue down this process with Berkeley and get the certification in executive education. And so I embraced on this, few-year journey with them to go through that. And that's also at the time then I got my first director role. During that process, I ended up as a senior director and was going through all this growth and learning on executive leadership. And then also it opened up like going through UC Berkeley's executive coaching program next. Because I met people who also ran that program and I was just like, I love to grow people. So So that's been an investment, is kind of leadership education as well as coaching education.
What's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
Yeah, so I've really thought a lot about this, especially in the last few months. And as I've been putting together my whole kind but tough philosophy and leadership frameworks, I really want the next generation of leaders to embrace that duality of both being kind and tough. And so, sure, I want part of my legacy to be like, how is it that I'm coaching people? How is it that I'm getting out there and talking about it? How is it I'm leading the next generation of leaders and teams to really embrace that you need that duality to be successful as a leader? And I also think it's just so critical now as AI is really, all consuming, especially if you're in tech, that you bring that human advantage and that thought process into how you lead. And so part of my kind but tough philosophy is also how is it that lens being applied within the world of product management? Because that's where I led and worked and operated and kind of where I live and breathe as a builder. And so that is really about thinking first and bringing that human advantage into how you determine what to build and then how you go forward boldly with with building products out using AI. So it's that combination.
Yeah. And what are the ways in which you feel you need to personally grow and develop to realize this vision?
I need to get out of my own comfort zone. So that's what I've really realized is that um, I've got to push myself outside of my own comfort zone in terms of putting my voice out there, putting my thoughts out there, even being on this podcast, naturally I'm more of an introvert. And so I'm more of a behind the scenes kind of person. But I'm trying to put myself out there in a way where I'm interacting with people and sharing my knowledge and really wanting to help build up more leaders who operate in a kind but tough manner.
Got it. Where do you feel most tested right now? Like what challenges are stretching you the most, both in leadership and life?
Time. So in terms of what's the most challenging aspect? I mean, honestly, that just flashed in my mind, lack of time. I just feel like there's so many things I want to do, and I'm just stretched all over the place. I'm trying to build out my leadership philosophy and frameworks. I'm playing with AI all the time and building different tool sets, and I'm trying to figure out how am I going to build different assessments and skills and how is that part of everything that I'm doing. I'm talking to different companies about leadership. I'm coaching others. So and I'm also trying to take care of myself and my family and my own creative aspects and curiosities outside of the workplace. So but even though time is a crunch, I'm really excited about where I am in life right now. I feel like this is a critical moment of so much work knowledge that I've accumulated. How am I going to go out into the world and evolve into the next version of myself? I'm just really excited about what's next and how do I step into the next version of how I want to lead.
And Diana, I think, this probably resonates with a lot of people because there's so much change happening. And at the same time, people are getting in touch with what they want to do. And time then becomes a challenge. I'm
Yeah.
curious, what are the ways in which you feel you need to grow and develop to meet this challenge? of really grasping time and leveraging time for what you want to do?
Yeah, so I have to be very intentional with my time. Um, and that's really like what matters to me and what's going to fuel me, and being okay with saying no to things. And so that's where you can't say yes to everything, and you have to be very intentional about what you are going to say yes to with your time. And so what is that? What are you investing time in that gives you energy versus drains your energy? And that's how I'm thinking about things. Like if I'm doing something, is it draining my energy, or am I excited about this? Like, am I like, it's giving me energy, it's fueling. I know it's going to get me to, it's planting seeds for opportunities. I'm being open to outcomes. I'm excited about what's going on. Or is this something that's just sucking the life and the energy out of me? Like, I really think intentionally about that now so that I focus my time on the things that fuel my energy. And I'm getting better and better about saying no.
And what you just said kind of brings back to me the point that awareness, you talked a lot about self-awareness, and that's really what gets you in touch with being intentional and what's important. So I really resonated with that. So this last question is more of an invitation. You have the time and space here to offer to our listeners whatever it is that is most in your mind and heart, to share straight from your heart, anything at all. Take your time. The floor is yours.
Well, I always have so many thoughts in my head. So this is great. So I guess I'll share a few things that come to mind. Right now, there's a lot of fear happening in the world. I guess I the world that I live in and I see, and I'm seeing all these posts on LinkedIn, and there's a fear that people have about what's going to happen to their jobs. There's a lot of layoffs that are going on, and I just want people to not fear what's happening, but really embrace what their human advantage is and lean into that and how they bring that to the table. So when you think about working in this AI forward world that we're in, especially like in the tech space, your human advantage is absolutely critical to how you're going to help differentiate yourself from others and help push a business forward and make the right decisions on what they're doing with AI, how they're using it, and what they're building. That human level of discernment and presence and empathy, that is something that AI can't replace, and that's a human advantage that people bring to the table. So that's something I want people just to embrace, is that human advantage that they're bringing to the table. The other part is, and I wish I'd known it sooner, like within my career, is to find your voice and really what matters to you as soon as possible within your career. Because you really are the only person who's going to push that career forward. And so you need to figure out what your voice is and how you're asking for things and understanding what's going on in your environment to get the opportunities that are going to push you into what you envision as being like how you want to operate or where you want your career to go. So you need to like take the reins of your own career, because working hard and even being the best at what you do doesn't always necessarily get you to that next level or get you that promotion. You have to be able to find your voice and ask for what you want.
There were so many nuggets of insight and information in everything that you shared today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, I got so much out of this conversation, and I'm sure whoever is listening will benefit equally from what you've shared. Diana, thank you so much for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
Thanks, Jessy. I had a great time today.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership Approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.